Just to remind everybody that language usage and content that we provide here may be disturbing, disgusting, probably will be and should be. Words like bloody custard and words that rhyme with that may be featured. Actually will be featured. In fact, perhaps will only be featured. Just warning you. Yes, this show is brought to you by Wow Tables and iWape.in.
You're listening to Cyrus Says.
And my guest today is Brijesh Singh, who is CID. Not the serial, he's actually CID. And he's a man who'll talk us through everything from cyber crime to anti-terrorism to how you can join the police force and make South Mumbai an even more congested area, for God's sake.
Cyrus Says we have other shows too. You should check them out.
Hi, my name is Prathamesh Tambe and I'm on Made in India with May.
Made in India is India's first indie music podcast hosted by May Thomas. You can find it on indusvox.com or subscribe to it on your favorite podcasting app.
You're listening to Cyrus Says.
All right, it's called Cyrus Says, and of course I've got something I want to share with everybody, which is I've given up Pedder Road. Pedder Road is extinct as far as I'm concerned. I'm a South Mumbai resident, and this is my local pain. I will never ever travel Pedder Road ever again. It is gone forever. I've gone on a public holiday, I've gone on a Sunday, I've gone on a working day, I've gone on a day with problems, and it's all the same. It just doesn't stop. The traffic there is horrendous. People give birth, including men. I can't take it anymore. I've decided no more Pedder Road. Do not mention Pedder Road to me. If you live in my area, remember, take Bridge Candy, take Tardio, go by the skies, or don't come to the area. But avoid Pedder Road. Pedder Road is over. It's called Cyrus Says.
Cyrus Says ad breaks are beneficial to your mental health.
This show is brought to you by Wow Tables. I spoke to Kunal and Deepa, the founders, about Wow Tables. Okay, now let's take you back to the history of Wow Tables and how you guys met.
Well, actually, Deepa was running a food business, and she also is the food lover. I just eat anything. Mm-hmm. We would go out once a week.
Very vulgar, but go ahead.
Well, we would go out, and I mean, we were married.
Yeah.
So we were married.
I can tell from the distance between you. And she's the food lover, and she still married you to improve you. See, that's why women marry us. Kunal, what the hell? To improve you, yeah, go on.
So in the process of improving me, I ended up creating a service that would help other couples and groups of friends discover new restaurants and also guide them into what to eat.
Eating different dishes every time you go out.
Visit wowtables.com to book an experience and use the code Cyrus Says to get 500 rupees off on your first reservation. I repeat, 500 rupees off. That's 100 plus 100 plus 100 plus 100 plus another 100. Yeah, that's right.
And that's what Cyrus Says.
Yes, it's called Cyrus Says, and we have a really big shot here for the first time. We've had some important people, but this is someone who's actually carrying an important position. This is Brijesh Singh, IPS Officer, Inspector General CID. I'll repeat that, Inspector General CID, which means now I have influence. So be careful. Road ka log jo hai na, I want to take panga with me all the time. I'll make one phone call to Brijesh Singh, Inspector General CID.
I'll send Daya.
He'll send Daya. Who is now running 15 years, the slowest detective serial ever. Now that you mention it, let's talk about that CID, boss. It's amazing how popular it is.
I can't tell you. My office is in Pune.
Right.
And here I was waiting to take a turn to my office. Mm-hmm. And I see this bus full of people. And they're looking at my office and laughing their guts out. I couldn't understand why they're laughing. Then I understood the relation between CID and, unintentional.
CID is a very high-profile department because of that serial which is run longer than Ramayan at the moment.
I owe my money to them.
You do. But watching it with all the American serials and all with the gitchtack gizmos and everything, it's an amazing serial. Because they still have old-fashioned technique and, the body, and then they'll touch the hand, and then they cut to some bottle and some liquid, and blue test ka hoga, red negative, and before you know it, that's the murderer. Fantastic. Tell me one thing, do they ever talk to people like you when they do these serials? Do they actually come and do research?
Isn't it obvious that they don't?
They don't, but at least chai pani, slight. Do you get affected when you see it? Do you say that? Because you guys have gone way ahead and then, they have no idea.
It's comic relief and comic pain,
Yeah. It's a bit like Premchand, I think. Premchand used to be a very good serial. No, Karamchand. Premchand is the writer. What am I saying? Karamchand. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
That worked well for that time. Of course, now it'll be a little too slow. Yeah. All right, Brijesh, let's not talk about other things. Let's talk about you to begin with. Very interesting life. You were also head of traffic in Mumbai, since I was ranting about traffic in the beginning.
I was additional CP with traffic here for 3.5 years.
Which era was that exactly?
Let's hear what era you're talking about, then we can...
Since I started actively driving in 1990, I'm just trying to put it together. So let's say it was about 2000.
Till 1.5 years back.
What are you saying? It was lovely that time, yeah, Brijesh ji. It was well-organized traffic. It's the last 18 months. I just want to bring that point up. The last 18 months have been pathetic.
Like things have changed in the country in the last some months,
Oh, God. Be careful. The podcast is not that free and fair. It's sponsored by one of the political parties. We haven't decided which one. Depends on who gives us more money. Yeah, we'll talk about that also a little later. But I just want to add on Mumbai traffic. I know it's a local situation. But for example, are you against this whole concept of the roundabout? Okay, we had that in Haji Ali. We have it in a couple of places. We have it in the north a lot. I like the roundabout. I know sometimes people get a little confused, but I feel the traffic keeps moving. As against 6 different signals, because it's just suddenly a meeting point of 6 different roads when you don't have a roundabout.
See, what happens is that traffic planning is done by the BMC.
And so let's blame somebody else.
The traffic planning in the sense that they have engineers who do the roundabouts and the signals.
Right. BMC has engineers?
Yes.
I have actually gone there. I know they have a canteen which was open. That's about it. Yeah.
You didn't meet any engineers in the canteen?
I don't want to say anything bad because we deal with these guys all the time, but no. Yeah. So basically the planning is done by who?
By the BMC traffic department. They have an elaborate...
and then you have to handle the situation which they have left behind.
We do the enforcement part.
The enforcement part. But do you think it's a problem that our city, especially South Mumbai, is not planned and that's why it's very difficult to control this traffic?
I think the traffic density has gone to more than 1,000 vehicles per kilometer. It's nowhere in the world.
Nowhere in the world?
Nowhere in the world.
Let's pause for a second and take a break. 2 minutes silence, ladies and gentlemen. So then this pain is genuine. People think, we are, people with a little bit of money, you drive cars, why are you complaining? That kind of thing. But the fact of the matter is that nowhere in the world will you get this situation.
Absolutely. Look at any other city. Look at a comparable city like Tokyo. Tokyo has almost a similar population.
But shorter people. No, not really.
But you look at the mass transport system of Tokyo. So you don't need to go anywhere. Wherever
with mass transport, you mean the subways?
The subways.
But our trains are pretty good. I'm told our trains are as good as anywhere.
But look at the volumes which travel in the train. The requirement is probably much, much more.
So, Brijesh, you're saying that the best idea is to give about 25% of our population to Tokyo because they can manage it better. And then perhaps we'll be able to work.
They'll have to make trains probably with roofs higher.
And they will get spit and pan for the first time on their lovely train journey. They will get people touching each other for no reason whatsoever.
Colourful.
Somebody reading while you're doing a selfie, one more face will be in it. Only here in Mumbai. Yeah, very challenging traffic police. I didn't even know about this. We have lots on you and lots of the other things to talk about. But I do find I can talk about traffic all the time because I think those who self-drive, there's a little, all over the world.
I understand.
There's a little personal angst. Do you ever use your police status when you're driving or on a day off?
No. I'm very careful about not doing so.
You never do that. One more complaint. I want to just finish it off, then we can talk about all the positive things.
Traffic is always so interesting that people, always want to talk
about. Traffic is today's weather. This is what I feel. We bond over it, especially if you're a driver. It's like how smokers bond and I suppose other people. But no, my question is that we have this psycho fancy and it's not Mumbai, it's all over India, where the VIP culture happens. And then 400 cars come behind. And always they wave everybody aside. Why do we do this?
See, I'll tell you. In Mumbai, at least, we have one head of state probably once in 10 days. And at times there are security requirements wherein you have to segregate this man from, others.
But I'm talking about CM. I'm not talking about head of state. As in the PM or anybody else.
So you would be surprised to know that there are no special considerations for our local VIPs there in Maharashtra.
So they're not supposed to have these cars following and stopping us.
They have the cars following, which is not a traffic consideration, which is probably a security consideration
because of lots of bags. They have to carry things and come back.
The security is a drill wherein you have to have a particular kind of cover and dignitaries have to be protected. It's done everywhere in the world, depending upon the...
But only the CM, I'm saying it cannot be for everyone because there are too many people, the red light is on and 10 people following.
But I think it's much better in Maharashtra where our VIPs don't insist upon any kind of stoppage of traffic. So traffic doesn't stop here for VIPs, except for head of states where, there are...
Then they stop the road. That's a different situation.
But... in Maharashtra, probably you see the difference between Mumbai and other states, and you'll find it very different there.
No. Definitely Delhi is unbelievable because I think nobody knows who the VIP is. Huh?
Everybody
thinks he's a VIP. They just put the bulb on top and they start driving. And then they say, Bunty, tu piche kar gaadi mein. And then just straight away you become...
And the second is, tu janda nahi mein kaun hai.
Mera baap kaun hai? And that is actually the terrible thing to ask someone. Yes, mummy bhi kuch janta nahi. Just talking traffic, but let's talk about the man himself. Brijesh Singh is very interesting, not because he's reached high levels in the police force and has made a name for himself in his first career, but second career, you're an author and a writer. Let's now just understand you completely, sir. You've served all over the police world in India already. You've headed a lot of different things. There's anti-terrorism and things like that we'll talk about a little later. But at the present moment, you're Inspector General CID. So that means you must be 24 hours a day at work. And yet you have time to write a book. Tell us about that.
In fact, the first work I wrote is on Indology. It's on ancient Indian history.
Please understand, there are 5-year-olds listening to my program. Indology alone will take us 15 minutes to explain. Now, I know what Indology is,
yes.
But I'm not sure they know. So maybe if you could explain.
That's the irony of this country, that we know less about Indology and more about, probably... Urology.
But that's with EU, huh? Not UR.
I get it. I get the subtext below the belt.
But audio, sir. Audio. We have to explain everything. Huh.
You're drawing an audio picture.
Yeah. Audio pain.
Yeah.
So, sir, you're telling us about Indology.
So, the first book, which is actually going to be published now, is about ancient Indian history.
Is it?
So, but the second one, which was published first, is called Quantum Siege.
Is this the BJP version of the ancient Indian history that I've been following? Or?
It lies in the eyes of the beholder.
Fair enough. You should not comment on that.
Yes.
As a serving officer. Fair enough. So, this is a great thing because as we've come into this, it's difficult to explain. Urban India is just completely disassociated with old India and doesn't seem to think about the past or whatever. So,
in fact, I invented a word. It's called Mai Kale.
Okay.
On Macaulay, which is Mai Kale. It's like a black Indian version of Macaulay,
Okay, this is now politically incorrect in 72 countries already. I'm just warning you, I can't. This whole program has to stop.
But if you look at Macaulay's take on Indian education, then Macaulay had said that all the works of Sanskrit and Arabic are not worth one shelf of English literature.
Is it?
Yeah. And that has been ingrained in us.
It's like a racist out and out.
Absolutely. So we berate ourselves. We are a self-flagellating nation, So
you're saying we're complex from the British Zamana and we've not been able to come out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was ingrained in us. It's like in some way we were programmed to be what we are today. A child told me that in our school we can't talk in Hindi because we are punished.
Are you kidding?
Absolutely. I studied in a missionary school where it was not allowed to speak Hindi.
Why?
Because we are Macaulay.
My God. Macaulay's done a lot for the country.
Macaulay's
But we have punished them. Have you seen the Indians in Southall and Hounslow and all that? We have destroyed their culture. They all speak Punjabi with accent.
Yes.
Punjabi aise baat karta. It's all totally different. Yes. We have pushed back.
We will take over the world in some time.
But let's come back. This very interesting thing that we have this identity crisis, I think.
Yes.
Especially people like myself and our generation and class. I think mostly because we have that Western education and we have that who the hell are we? Like you were saying, when we go abroad, we're not quite sure who we are. We think we are Western, and then only when they tell us to buzz off do we realize we're not.
Yeah.
So how did this idea come? Have you been looking around and seeing this sort of...
No, what happened is that there's a friend of mine with whom I was discussing this whole idea of the iconography of... let's say this friend of mine used to write graphic novels. And he had written something about ancient Indian history. And I said, see, all your characters, they look like Greeks.
Right, the features and all.
Features. They said, I don't want to make it Amar Chitra Katha. I said, what's so wrong about our own iconography? Yeah. So, and this led to think that, why don't you write? I said, okay, I'll write. And I took it as a challenge. And but that project went for 2 years. It started as a graphic novel. Then I realized that I have too much material and let's go for a full...
So you became the Rajkumar Santoshi of writing. You started the film and we're waiting for the publication years later.
Yeah,
but coming back to that point, so this is a very good idea. Our statues sometimes are very westernized. I won't take names of our famous heroes, but aquiline features, long chin, sometimes very fair looking and all, which is why does that happen? Why aren't we proud of whoever the hell they were?
We aren't. And that's exactly my point, is that I wanted to write it for my children and for other people to show that, look here, we have been here continuously for 5,000 years and we've done for ourselves. We've never invaded anybody. We've never killed people. We've had differences of opinions which we used to settle.
We invented credit card fraud. 1 point takeaway.
So, and in this I ended up reading a very interesting text which is called Arthashastra by Chanakya.
Yes. I call him Kautilya, but we were in class together, so don't want to show off. Yeah.
So if you look at the original translation, you would find that in 2300 years before, we had traffic laws.
But it is written in Pali or Prakriti or one of those languages.
Sanskrit.
In Sanskrit.
It's Sanskrit.
You can read Sanskrit?
No, there are wonderful translations available.
Okay.
And the society was so evolved that we had, a civilization where we had, can you believe we had traffic laws at that time? There were parking charges at that time.
Baba, I'm telling you, we have gone back 4,000 years. I've been saying it from the beginning. And I'm telling you, he kept roundabouts. Chanakya must have told Chandragupta, bhai, we have to have roundabouts, otherwise there'll be a problem.
Yeah.
And that's where the Mauryas, the Guptas, all great times.
Absolutely. The thing is that, but if you look at our own psyche, there's this, whole absence of knowledge about our own culture.
True.
So when these Ashokan pillars were discovered by the Britishers, they called all the learned people in the north, and nobody could decipher because we had no contact with the Kharame, with the Kharoshti, Aramaic and Brahmi scripts. So nobody could translate them. It took
Aramaic, isn't that the
Aramaic
script of the Arab area? The Jewish areas.
Mediterranean. Yeah.
So what was it doing on the Ashoka edicts?
Ashokan edicts, have multiple languages. They're like Rosetta Stone.
Okay.
So they have, depending on the area, they have, these three kinds of scripts.
With Buddhist sayings on it?
You may call it Buddhist, but they were basically about statecraft as to, what the king says. So they were like the royal edicts.
Okay.
And nobody could decipher them. And it took a Britisher, a chap called James Princip, deciphered it. So this is the thing that we don't know about our own culture. And somehow we should be aware of what we are. You go to Japan, you go to Germany, you go to Russia. They're so much aware about themselves and they talk about that with pride.
And some of them try to study us and our way of how we contributed to their understanding.
Absolutely.
For example, from what I gather, Machiavelli also is completely the Arthashastra. Is copied a lot of Chanakya.
There are similarities. There are a lot of similarities.
So we have taught the West. The West owes us money, boss. There's a lot of things that we have brought them in.
Intellectual property.
From zero onwards, yeah. We've given them, IP has to stay with us. All right, let's move on a little bit. So you released the book on Indology.
No, it's coming.
Still to come
It's with HarperCollins.
Yeah.
It's about to be released in the next 6 months.
Yeah, but this is going to be a big challenge, getting Indians now to revive themselves and look back into the past. I think they're too interested in internet and all that adult entertainment that is easily available that you and I don't look at, sir. We are stuck between Arnab Goswami and Ashoka edicts, somewhere in the middle. All right, let's move on now to your present situation, your Inspector General, CID. Let's talk about your police career first, and then we'll come back to writing in the present book. So how did it all start? Brijesh Singh, obviously a man who's very interested in the world, not your common, normal sort of person who just does his job and goes home.
I used to be an engineer. In fact, I started as a mining engineer.
What a waste of a degree, sir. You had an engineering degree and now you went into police. So that one guy suffered because of you somewhere.
So after engineering, I appeared for civil services, and mindful civil services is a very strange exam. It's like a million people competing against you,
right?
And you have the IITians and the IIMs as well competing for the same exam.
Correct.
And to get into the first 2 or 3 services, you have to be amongst 100 in probably a million people, and the exam goes on for almost a year.
My God!
So it has got multiple stages and all. So after you clear this, then you are allotted services. So I got into the IPS and was fortunate enough to get Maharashtra. I'm from Maharashtra.
Okay.
Partially studied in Mumbai for civil services. Then worked in various areas.
But police was the thing you wanted to do, or you were just given that?
It's both. That I also wanted it and I got what I wanted.
Okay.
It's like this, that if you have a preference, if your rank matches your preference, you get it.
Oh, great.
Like elsewhere in life.
Right. Otherwise, what would the option? Foreign service?
No, my option was police. I mean, so
police, whatever happens.
No, you basically have to give a series of options. So if your rank...
Can you say like tennis player and all that also in the middle? Just see how they react.
30 different services.
30 different services. Which are the lesser known ones? Just
audit and accounts and...
who would not want that? Yeah.
But they do a lot of serious job. The problem is that it's not known to people, especially in Mumbai, about what the bureaucracy does, or let's say, I think
we just know the IFS, IPS, and the normal civil service. That's it.
the IS.
That's it.
They do a lot of work, all the planning, all the major projects.
Oh, now we know ISIS, but that's totally different. They're doing no charity work, from what I gather. Yeah, sorry, I interrupt you. So coming back, you took up the IPS, and what was your first job? What was your first posting? Tell us a little bit about your early life.
I began in a city called Satara, but that's probation time.
Right.
And where I met my beautiful wife, and we, by the time I came to Nagpur, which is my hometown, we got married there. From Nagpur, I was a deputy commissioner of police in Nagpur, and I was fortunate to look after intelligence in my first charge. It was called special branch. Normally, it's given to a very senior formation, but somehow, at that time, I was...
So intelligence means what? Spy networks?
No, there's a very established practice of, intelligence within the police department, and it comes from Britishers. And the department has virtually carried their, best practices forward. And it's very elaborate. So one needs to learn on how society operates. So, what we see is like the Matrix, in the sense that what is available to the world is not what happens actually. So with intelligence, you get that insight as to what is happening, what are the real causes.
So you're seeing the layers?
Yes.
You're seeing inside. So your perspective is very different from what we are getting as well.
I think so. We have access to information, which is...
Did you have to go undercover also, or is this all data that you're looking at?
Data was not there at the time. There was not so much of computerization, so it's most of it was human intelligence. And still, I think today there's human intelligence. There's no alternative to it. Everywhere you see excessive reliance on one method may leave gaps. So it was basically human intelligence, and we got good information in time to. So people don't even know what all is done, behind the back to protect them, to serve them. They are not even aware, and one is not even allowed to talk about it.
Like in this Paris attacks, for example, these guys are talking about the fact that there were 15 or 20 attacks that they have been able to stop before this, which the citizen doesn't know about.
I think the ratio is much more. In
India also?
Yes.
They stopped lots of attacks. We have no idea about it.
Absolutely.
They have been able to catch people.
Absolutely. So a lot of it is going on because, there are forces which are trying to destabilize the country, and they are continuously doing this. It's like full-time job.
Full-time, no retirement. These guys are the only people that don't get a pink slip.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. But what an interesting story. So then you were basically trying to find out more about the underbelly also, or the inside networking of a society.
Yeah, there are a lot of departments in that. So each of one specifically looks up. And there are people like who have been for 20 years looking after one particular kind of organization. So they have a lot of insight in that.
Right. So a personal favor, my producer Amit Doshi's name, if it's ever come up, can you just make sure that the file is just suppressed or repressed or whatever the word is? Because he's got lots of crime. Barring terrorism, uska haath hai. Sab mein uska haath hai.
You're giving me a nice lead.
Yeah. I don't trust that guy. I just want to be totally frank here. Yeah. So then you probably know who... Is it true? Again, it's a very difficult question to ask a policeman, and I've asked police officers before. Is it true that you sort of know who the bad guys are most of the time? In terms of wherever there's crime or a riot, or you've already studied the lay of the land, and you sort of know who are the factors that can cause everything.
See, I'll tell you something from a British court discussion. So this lawyer gets exasperated, and he says, "My lord, I am presenting the facts." He says, "But I want evidence." So that's it. You know a lot of things, but to have hard evidence is something else. And then to have hard evidence which would lead to nailing of somebody is another difficult part. Given the vicissitudes of our society and...
So just tell us about the pressures. I don't know, obviously you can't be specific. Are there pressures on you to not give evidence sometimes because there are other factors, important, influential factors involved?
I've spent almost 20 years in law enforcement, but let me say that Maharashtra is very free and fair. When we talk to, other colleagues at other places, they do at times, face attempts to sort of influence their judgment on investigations. But I have never faced it in Maharashtra. It doesn't happen.
Okay, I know it's an ongoing case, the Peter Mukherjee case and all that, but everybody's very interested in it. Now, your expert opinion, without obviously crossing any lines, do you think it's possible to have information on this guy before and it was suppressed and held like the media is trying to say, or what is your opinion?
No, what happens, what matters is what evidence is produced in the court, and it's done painstakingly. And now there are other agencies which would be doing that, which would be basically also verifying what work has been done. That's what I'm saying is that what comes in newspapers and all is a lot of speculation, and they are not responsible for what they are writing. They don't have to produce it for scrutiny of the court.
Yeah, because now we cannot have this appellate system ending with Arnab Goswami. In the old days, it was very clear. We had Supreme Court at the top, but now this Arnab Goswami has become the apex body, judiciary. Someone has to stop that. Also, I noticed that they have these guys on TV programs, radio programs, where they talk, not specifically, but just at the surface. He's guilty because of this one reason. They don't go into detail. Can we just cut to the Arushi murder, because there's a parallel there also. Again, I want your expert opinion without, if it's possible for you to do that. Is it not possible that they have, in that case, that there are other leads that have not been explored?
I'll tell you again, media is free to speculate. But let me tell you that I have interacted with a lot of other agencies in, comparable agencies in the world. We are, if not better, but as competent as anybody else. And we do a fair job. An agency normally, why should it have a grouse against anybody? And anybody who's been accused, he will always feel that he'll feel that he's right? So I've spoken to, I was on a committee where we used to look after remission of sentences as a district chief of police of murderers. So you go to jail and people who have spent like 10 years already in prison after murder, you talk to them, still they say we are innocent. Even after 10 years, they're not ready to confess. So every criminal feels that, he is innocent, and if he gives his version today, there's no filter. What this mass media has done is that it's giving us, it's not the raw truth, but it's just rawness. So it becomes difficult for people to discern what is true and what is not.
And too much information for people, I think it just after some time we get bored. The loudest voice wins. Is that what's happening in India? I think even in the West, the same thing. There's sort of sensationalized stories sometimes.
But you look at the ad rates, right? If you sensationalize something, the ad rates increase. So it's probably an economic logic, which works that if you sensationalize something, you get more money. So there's an interest in sensationalizing something. If you tell them about a serious investigation wherein, a good lead has been obtained and result has been obtained, nobody's going to print it. It's not interesting. They say, isme angle kya hai? What is the twist?
And both these cases are soap operas at the moment.
Yeah.
It's amazing. They're trying to put the police hand into it. They're trying to put, all kinds of things from money, embezzling funds and destroying channels to actual murder, incest. Everything is put into it. It's very difficult to beat this. This is a very big story that we have here. Let's talk a little bit about you are in charge of cybercrime, or you were in charge of cybercrime.
No, I look in CID. CID basically, I had something called Trade Crime Records Bureau, which basically is the head of all technical units. So the Fingerprint Bureau reports to me.
Right.
And the Handwriting Analysis Bureau reports to me. All the, dog training units which are there, they report to me.
I'm a big dog fan. That's fantastic. You keep German Shepherds?
We don't have German Shepherds right
Dobermans.
now. Dobermans.
Belgian Shepherd is the other one.
Labradors.
But Labrador का कुछ खास बात नहीं है, because I'm a little worried. Every time you go to a hotel and the Labrador comes to sniff, then you pat him, he jumps in the car. I don't know if he's really looking at the bomb. He's looking at another family to go and hang out with.
Actually, dog training is a very serious subject, and dogs have their types. Like an explosive dog cannot do a narcotics job. So for life, they are So
then why do they have only one dog at the hotel? They're only looking for explosives. Obviously.
I don't know about the hotel dogs and other dogs.
My experience is hotels. At the moment, I'm not going to any IS areas. But coming back to cybercrime, which is now obviously, to the layman, this is the future.
Yeah.
To catch these guys, whether it's terrorism downwards to any petty crime, it's going to be this.
Right.
So tell us about what if you, again, you can't give away everything, I suppose, but what is it all about? Are you able to sit on a computer and see what's going on?
There are various kind of capabilities which the state has. So let's talk about investigation capabilities. So the government of Maharashtra and the Home Department has done a lot in last some years, and now also we have serious plans to upgrade capabilities for investigation of cybercrimes. So though cybercrimes are a very small, it's less than 1% of the total crime, but the impact is very high. And nowadays in every other offense also there is some kind of an electronic footprint. So we need to upgrade our capabilities. We are understanding, and but you also have to understand that the police is simultaneously dealing with probably 200 other subjects. So it may be human trafficking, it may be, organ trade, it may be terrorism.
So again, just coming back to one thing, for example, there are 23 Indians who have joined ISIS. This is what the media has reported. Now, how do you guys get to that figure? How were you able to catch 23? It's all electronic footprint only. How have you found them?
So that probably is the job of central agencies, which have a lot of sources. They collate data, they get exact information, and then they pass on. So if they are talking 23, it must be definitely, and they must be having total details. So what normally happens is that when a central agency says something, it has done a lot of research on that before saying that. So they do a thorough job, and they're good. And let me tell you that here in Mumbai, I have interacted with a lot of other agencies. So, Obama's security, the Secret Service had come here, and initially they talked to us, and they were worried about how he would move through Bombay. But when they went, they came to each of our offices and they said that it's impossible for us to operate in these conditions. How do you guys operate? And they were really thankful. And
Meaning?
They said that you guys are very competent and you have handled it very well. We could not have handled it in such complexity. See, because, their country, there are no neighboring countries where you look alike. Any neighboring country, anybody, they speak the similar language, they can come here. It's not like that in USA. You'll go to an airport where it's very secure. So here the environment is very complex. The level of complexity is very high. In this, to have security is another level of complexity. So they saw it and they really appreciated it. And while interacting, you also get an idea as to what level of technology they are at. Okay, technologically they may be slightly advanced, but I think our agencies are equally.
But I promise you, sir, if Obama had come self-driven in South Mumbai and tried to park his car in a building, the watchman would have stopped him. Top security watchman, what's the top likha hai uspe? He would have on the vardi, he would have come and said, "Sir, sorry, parking nahi hai idhar, nahi hai." And there would have been a fight. And the SS, with all their power, the American Secret Service wouldn't be able to do anything.
They even it's good that they even check our cars, right? You go to coming back to hotels. Huh. So if they see, especially if they see a senior officer, they'll check his car thoroughly.
Just to make an impression on the officer.
Yes.
Works reverse.
Sometimes I tell them that, "Acha, theek hai, check kar liya. What should I do with this, and this? All the weaponry which they've forgotten to check."
And then what happens? They get worried that their job's in danger.
No, they say, no. You are entitled to carry it inside.
But coming back to the security check, sometimes they look also ridiculous. No? They come and they open one glove compartment, they open one back and they just walk off.
It's got a lot of deterrence value. So, security is also about, in some way, also about
appearing
to be secure. So let's say
it's like Bollywood in some ways.
No, if let's say I'm somebody who's planning something nefarious. If I see that there's obvious security, then probably my plans would change. So it's called target hardening. Target hardening has to be done. Right. And that's the price you have to pay for your liberty today.
So I'm almost ready to join the police force now. I've learned so much. So have you, if you've been watching or listening rather to this podcast. We are with Brijesh Singh and we have to take a break. He's Inspector General CID. He's also an author. He's got a couple of books in the pipeline. We'll talk more about that when we come back. Also, his version of what's happening in terms of terrorism across the world, because he's met lots of interesting people who are curbing and countering and fighting against terrorism. But that doesn't mean he'll be able to help me with my wife. We'll come back and talk.
Cyrus says, stop picking your nose, listen to this ad.
This show is brought to you by iVape.in, and I spoke to Amit Jain, the founder. So you've come up for the layman with this iVape.in, of course, products. And what is the success rate?
In India, this is an early start. I think we are not even started. And we are the only brand who's coming up with this approach. We are making the liquids in India with materials imported from US. And our hardware comes from China. And we make sure that everything is well tested.
Visit iVape.in to use the code Cyrus Says to get 15% off on your purchase. iVape.in.
And that's what Cyrus says.
All right, back here on Cyrus Says, Brijesh Singh, author, Inspector General CID. He's wearing many different caps and entertaining us as well as informing us about what's happening in the police world. And I must say that we have a very wrong opinion of the police. We think the police don't do anything. Guys got a big stomach standing Havaldar in the hot sun and, taking bribes. But it's much more complex. It's much more intricate, the networks and the kind of stuff that are going on. In fact, it's quite reassuring to listen to you from a point of view of an Aam Aadmi in a society, that all this is happening, because it looks like the bad guys have gotten away.
No, I'll tell you, what happens is that essentially the job is negative in the sense that you have to say no, you have to stop, you have to arrest people. So the interaction with people is basically negative. And most of the people who have formed these opinions are on the basis of media reports. So they've hardly ever personally dealt with police. So there is a crisis here, is that we do not have a PR agency which can, plant articles about us and give
smiling
better
cops.
Ratings.
But they can smile more. Yeah. I'm talking, of course, about uniform cops, not you guys. But they can be a little more PR, just a little more helpful.
But this is the only department which runs 24/7. Mm-hmm. Other departments, it's not like other departments which, run from 10 to 5. So a police station is always on. And given the paucity of staff, our people are actually under a lot of pressure. They do a lot of work. As compared to any other comparable agency, our numbers are much less and the pressures are much high. So these people are if you look at their health profiles, you see how much stress they undergo. If you actually,
and there's a high suicide rate also.
I may not probably like to talk about that, but yes, there are work pressures which may lead to.
So why don't we ask the government to increase the payment of police officers so more of us join the police force? I have only 3 things against. I don't like the color of the uniform. I wanted something darker, and I just thought it would be more dashing. And also working in the sun. We are Indians. It's okay for Europeans.
So there were attempts to change the uniform, and
remember the old Amitabh Bachchan movies, and they had the blue uniform and all that. I like that uniform.
So there was an attempt here, I think 4 years back, where a lot of people were engaged to design, and 4-5 designs were shown to us.
Don't tell me they got the top of the line fashion designers for this.
I won't like to comment about
Please, tell us who.
I won't tell you the name. But then when we looked at them, then we understood that they all look like security guards. So I said, I don't want to be, a security guard.
But nobody wanted to go back to blue as a color?
See, this is the genesis for this khaki. The khaki came from actually the British military. Because they found that that was there's a term which is called malkhor, in the sense that dirt doesn't affect it. So in a way, it also talks about the work which we do, that we deal with dirt. Right? And somehow khaki, is something, if you wear white, I was working with traffic and the chaps had to,
it becomes black in Mumbai by the end of the day.
It's black by the end of the day. So khaki is something which is suited to our environment.
So practical reasons, you've shot down my blue, and Tarun Thailyani, who gave us those lovely collection for police uniforms, also shot down for no reason whatsoever. So let's talk more about your life now as a writer, which is very interesting. Firstly, you had this gentleman friend of yours who, was a graphic novelist, obviously that made you interested in the medium. But right now we are talking about a new novel called Quantum Siege, which is actually scaring me. I just read a couple of lines on it. 72 hours for a Mumbai policeman to find and defuse a nuclear bomb in the city. Which now, sometimes I'm thinking you're giving ideas to these guys. I'm just worried about that.
The guys are too brilliant. They already have a lot of ideas.
You think?
We keep on diffusing the ideas.
But it's just the idea of they get a nuclear arsenal because they care nothing about human life. There's just that worry.
But see, it's the first choice for terrorists and all terrorist organizations. It's the dream weapon. They've already...
Their marketing departments drew it up on the memorandum. We must get nuclear weapons from Poland today. Yeah. So tell us how you come up with this idea and a pretty scary situation.
See, the format was almost like 24, wherein you have a limited time and...
English version, Hindi version. Donald Sutherland, Anil Kapoor. I leave the choice to you, sir.
Versions apart, but... the idea came like people wanted to have... Penguin wanted... the book is for Penguin. The Penguin was looking for... By the time completed my historical, it was just finishing, and this idea came up, and they wanted somebody who was an insider to write with an insider's perspective. So I had very limited time for that, and probably that's the rush you see in the novel. But I'll tell you something very strange about the novel also. It's got a lot of Zen stories.
Okay.
So a friend of mine who read it, she called me up, and her voice was, I was very excited. So I thought that she's liked the book. She says, "Who writes Zen stories in a novel? In that too, in a racy novel."
But where's the Zen connection? You're like a narrator.
The protagonist breaks into a Zen story.
Okay.
It's probably to talk about the absurdity of things.
Okay.
And those Zen stories basically give you an answer and don't give you an answer. So
are you yourself influenced by the Zen philosophy?
I like Zen philosophy. That's why it has been reflected in the book also.
Okay, that's Zen, not Jain. I don't want any trouble later. Zen philosophy is not different from Jain philosophy. Coming back to it, you were anti-terrorism for some time?
No.
You worked with them? You worked with anti-terrorism organizations?
No.
But you were telling us a story about this Ukrainian commander who had come, etc. So
no, I used to work with. There is something called State Reserve Police Force. It's a paramilitary unit. So a lot of agencies. Private agencies in which retired personnel from various special forces, now they've started their shops. So they used to come and train. And I had a chance to interact with this Space NAS chap, and they were really good.
And he was from Ukraine at that point?
He was from the...
And was he like the finest warrior you've ever seen?
I think so. He was really good.
So you were telling us just before we started that he actually threw an open challenge, a gauntlet. What was that?
No, this guy had some very special techniques. Like I was talking about embussing and debussing, so he could, actually roll from a moving bus with a weapon on his feet. He could just jump and stand on his feet with a weapon and start shooting.
So in Ukraine, they took 50 years to catch up with what Amitabh Bachchan did in 1975 when he threw himself out of a moving train with a gun in hand and shot 6 people.
Don't talk of Rajnikant now.
Rajnikant, oh, you're right. May I be corrected? Rajnikant even earlier. Fantastic. Well done. Yeah, so it's very interesting now. Which is a little serious conversation on terrorism across the world right now. We're in the middle of this whole mess. How do you coordinate with everybody culturally, to fight this menace? You can see that Russia has issues with Turkey at the moment, and the small issues will keep cropping up between, say, America and Russia, or because of old interests which are not in the same direction. Same problem with India and other countries around us. So how does one work with neighbors and friends to fight this?
So let me tell you that there are various formations and various agencies who have a specific job cut out for them. So policing and law and order is a state subject. The state of Maharashtra has its own police, and we look after the law and order and intelligence.
Which is not terrorism.
We also look after terrorism. But when the issue becomes national, there are agencies which are looking after internal and external. Every country has its internal and external, intelligence agencies which look after getting information about any impending attacks and things like that. So this is happening at various levels. It's like the immune system of the body. Mm-hmm. It also operates at the cellular level. It also operates at the organ level. So these people are working continuously, and they coordinate with each other when something significant comes up. And let me tell you that a lot of information does come, and a lot of it is done behind your back. People never know what all has happened, to protect them. We are fairly successful, but if there are people who are continuously on this job to destabilize this country, it also becomes difficult. Something will slip.
But the success rate is what, 90%?
Much more than that.
Much more than that. Okay. Just a quick couple of words then. At the moment, how are things looking? Is it looking like the world will be able to combat this ISIS menace that's going on? Or how? Because you're in charge of cyber, I think that's the way to fight now in the future. It's all about information, isn't it?
See, if you look at who initially tackled the cyber influence of ISIS, it took an organization called Anonymous to do that. Anonymous brought down 4,000 accounts of ISIS in a day in the last time. Again, after the Paris attacks, they've said that they'll be bringing down. So what they do, they find out bots of communication, which the ISIS has been using, or similar channels of communication, and they've been just destroying these channels. For a state actor, it's very difficult, but for something like... So what I'm saying is that unconventional situations, they require unconventional measures. And our agents, Indians are, in that way, our finest people are actually very, very bright. If you look at NASA, if you look at anywhere else, our engineers and our people are working very well. So we do quickly learn from them. We have our constraints about resources, but we learn.
Having said that, sir, you also said that the average IQ level is not that high according to Google.
Google says that.
Yeah, Google says that. What does Google know? Yeah.
Google. Cyrus says, Google says.
Yeah, Cyrus and Google. You never said that. You never opened my eyes to that. Yeah, so our fine officers are definitely fine. Others we're really in for a bad time. Which brings us to one very important point very quickly, if we can get to it, which is, what about this whole encryption debate? So do you think you should be allowed as a intelligence member of the world fraternity to be able to look into the data of everybody across the universe?
Privacy versus security is always going to be a debate.
Correct.
It's like when man invented fire. So it depends on what use you want to put it to.
It's why the toilets have a lock. I always said that.
So encryption is if it's used for a good purpose, is good. But why would you allow somebody who's having nefarious designs, who want to explode bombs, who want to poison people, who want to kill people? Why do you want them to have encryption? If they have encryption, they are going to use it, and you'll never be able to trace them. And they'll keep on continuing what they're doing. So debate apart, we have to draw a line somewhere. That you can't have... Our freedoms are limited by others' freedoms. It says that your freedom ends where man knows begins. So you have to know where to stop with freedoms also. That's why in the Constitution of India also there are reasonable restrictions which talk about public safety, morality and things like that. VIP presence. It's always a problem. So I'm sorry, I'm a South Mumbaiker, and it's always the same problem for us. Too many VIPs. You should shift to Delhi then. No, I've seen that Delhi. I'm telling you, in Delhi we could not identify who the VIP is. At least here they say, Mukhyamantri or something like that. There nobody knows. They just see the cars. Let's talk a little bit about your personal life now. You like cooking. We've done a little research on you. And is cooking something that helps you de-stress? You obviously have a job which is very important. Plus you write. It's independent of, who's a better cook, you or your wife? That's a difficult question. If she's listening
She
to the
won't hear, yeah. She won't hear. Be honest, be open. These women have bullied us too long.
It's already seeming like an inquisition chamber. I don't want to be subjected to it again.
No, come on. You're used to pressure cooker situations. Pardon the pun. Huh?
But my friends like what I cook.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not commenting about...
Yes, you should have been a diplomat. You've been wasted in acting as DIG here. What else do you do to pass time when you've got time, the rare occasion? Do you like sports? Do you play cricket, football, anything like that?
I like adventure sports.
You want more adventure? You're diffusing bombs, you're catching crooks, you're looking at international conspiracies, you're dealing with VIPs, and then you want to go out again? I would think that you'd sit and play PlayStation football or something, And FIFA 2016 is what I recommend. Relax. Yeah. Music?
Yes, music. Indian classical music.
Indian classical. So everything about you is a little more discerning. Not the regular.
Indian classical, Western classical.
Okay.
Yeah. So...
My God. So he's a difficult person for us to have a conversation with because we'll have to do some research and understand the music. We had one guy like that who liked jazz. Took us about 45 minutes to get to a point.
To de-jazz him.
Yeah. So what would be your favorite thing to listen to if everything was free and you were sent to a concert? Who would you like to listen to?
Pandit Bhimsen Joshi. Unfortunately, he's no more, but it's almost like God.
Can you do his voice, that deep voice?
No, but I wish I could. It's almost like God singing.
Yeah. But that's what we think. What if God has a high voice? I mean, not to be rude, but you never know. It's almost like racism. We should not presume.
I agree.
My daughter once asked me, my son actually asked me when he was 3 years old, who is God's mother? And I just didn't know what to say. Some of these questions are quite difficult, quite complex.
My daughter asked me yesterday, she says, James Bond is a male concept. Why can't you have Jane Bond?
Oh my God, does she know what the censor board is going through with one kiss?
The Sanskari Bond thing.
Sanskari Bond is not, now we have to have, Bond is a spree. No longer free. Yeah. But Brijesh, nice talking to you. A very interesting life. The new book is out or going to be out. It's called Quantum Seeds, 72 Hours for a Mumbai Policeman to Find and Defuse a Nuclear Bomb. We won't tell more about that, but it ends well, na boss?
It ends
We're
well.
living in times where we need good stories. I think too many bad stories out there.
It ends well or ends swell.
But swell should be well. Whatever, as long as the country is okay, I'll keep the VIP presence, but the terrorism has to stop. You bring great work. And so one last question, if I can ask you, what's the difference between CID and CBI?
CBI is a central organization. So in this country...
And CID is a TV serial. Is that what you know?
So the CID is for the state of Maharashtra. So every state has its own CID. The CID is an organization by the British. It was started in 1920s, and it's been headquartered always at Pune. And it always takes up serious investigations. So all the custodial deaths, they by default go to CID. Large cases of statewide fraud, they go to CID. Sensational cases, they go to CID. So it's almost like the CBI for the state, and the CBI does the same thing for the whole country. It's a federal agency.
So then why didn't you get involved in this present case, the Peter Mukherjee Sheena Indrani case? Why wasn't the Maharashtra CID called first instead of the CBI?
No, it's the decision of the state government to think of an appropriate agency to...
If there's any problem, I am a very good friend. We are neighbors. Mr. Fadnavas and I, we have spoken many times. I will put in a good word. Don't you worry, sir. But you're Nagpur boy at the end of the day, aren't you?
Yes.
What is the problem? It's all done, yaar. Sub settled. In Mumbai, we say it's all called setting. It's all setting. Now, speaking of setting, we have one more section left. It's called Ask Me Anything. If you're kind enough to just wait 5 minutes, some silly questions will come and we can both tackle them. These are actual questions by people who listen to the program. And after this, hopefully there'll be lots more people who actually are educated. This is one of the rare shows where we had information to give.
Cyrus Says, Ask Me Anything. If you want Cyrus to answer your questions on air, send an email to whatcyrussays@gmail.com. If you send us a link to a sound file on SoundCloud, we'll even play you asking the question in your own voice. And that's what Cyrus says.
All right, AMA time. May has replaced Amit, our producer, who's wanted by the Cybercrime Division for, I don't know what exactly, we'll find out.
For Nigerian frauds.
Nigerian fraud. Impersonating a Nigerian.
Just because I'm South Indian, is this some sort
Oh, come on.
We're talking of Amit,
Of course, right. I'm fine with that then. I'm innocent.
Go on.
Okay, so basically
it would take 5 Nigerians to make Amit.
Oh, no.
Nigerians are healthy. It's a healthy part of Africa.
Okay.
I think we're looking at another couple of countries where there's a bit of a famine. Not anymore. Me.
Okay, so for our first question, Aarti Sharma via email said, Pahlaj Nilani is nuts. Why does he have the right to decide how long we can see a kiss for?
Let's ask the policeman. Why should I take this? Let's ask the policeman. He's here to help with the law.
Again, as I earlier said, that the limits to freedom have been defined by the Constitution, and you need to have limits on freedom. Now, the discretion part is what we can talk about. So there are authorities who basically decide about the kind of discretion. Tomorrow, you may start saying that why does a court decide? It's the job of the court. Similarly, the job of the censor board is to decide, and it's not the sensitivity and sensibility of only a particular urban group. So somebody may feel very strongly about something, but somebody may find it very, very derogatory, right? So probably these boards or these agencies, they look at the society and they look at the interest of society as a whole. And what they do in their wisdom may be open to question, but it's their discretion which they've applied.
I think, Brijesh, you're sounding like a lawyer now to me, honestly. You made sure that you've not given a decision on this as an umpire. Yeah. Third umpire decision pending.
Since I was asked, I gave my opinion.
The process, fair enough. What you're saying, I'll accept the process is needed. We need a process, and there is a process.
Yes.
I think her question is Pahlaj Nilani the wrong guy for this because unpopular decisions are being made? Of course, we don't want a democracy to rule like a mob, so I understand that also. But the point is that he sounds a little bit, I won't use the word right-wing, but not able to understand that 2015, 2016, a case perhaps is no longer what it was in 1977, 1978.
Exactly.
But there are a lot of Indias, right? So what we look at as social morality is not a particular thing. So the social morality of probably Haryana would be very different from probably Chennai or a village in Bengal. So if you look at the comprehensive picture, then somebody may have taken a decision.
But then when will we end? We have so many different societies living in one country. Can't we just give them like an over 13, over 15, over 22 against our values, against our Sanskriti, against our... Just put it, apna parampara mein nahi hai. I don't know, just put a sign there. And then you go if you want to go, don't go if you don't want to go.
The internet has already done that, so there's no censorship on the internet. So
if
there's a rumor that Mr. Nilani himself is looking at the internet, enjoying himself on one side. Ye man karo, ye mana karo, ye nahi, ye against our culture. So against our culture is just going crazy. As you said, so much of our culture is actually the Western culture which they've taken from us in many cases.
I told you,
including Khajuraho, where you always, have you ever been? Some of the most
I've never been to
artistic and erotic images that you will see in the whole world. Ajanta Ellora, for example. Just go and see. It's amazing. And this is thousands of years ago, and we go back Victorian India after that. Let not the policeman take this, because he has to also represent the government. We must understand that. Next point.
Okay, the next one is Jignesh Sangvi via email said, Paris, man, is there any hope left for this world?
This again is for you. A lot of negative cynicism now. People really feeling a little insecure, feeling scared, not as a global citizen. What do you think? Should we be more worried than ever before?
I think it's very natural to feel the way people feel. This kind of sadness and despair, as human beings, we are going to feel. There are things happening in the world, and they will keep on happening. It's that the collective conscience of humanity has to decide how to put an end to this, and probably that stage is coming now.
Is it a Kali Yuga? Is it fair to say this? People are saying that all around me, and every time this happens, people say that.
So there are interpretations, and it depends on your framework.
You're a student of history. You tell us, sir.
If you look at times in history, we've had worse times. If you
like when?
Like if you look at the world wars, the whole of
famines, world wars, those kind of things.
The World War I and World War II were probably worse times to live in.
Or Himesh Reshammiya's first album. Whatever, there have been some bad times. Yeah.
You're talking of unnatural disasters.
You're a Bhimsen Joshi lover. I'm sure you're okay with this.
I was talking of natural disasters and unnatural disasters.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay, so I think the answer is that we are being too cynical. It's easy for us to say this particular attack has happened in Africa and Paris, for example. Whenever it happens to us, we also feel that. It all gets localized and you probably get more emotional. But I suppose we have to just be positive.
But there's also an ironical way of looking at it, in the sense that there are things which are happening in lesser known parts of the world, but they don't
get the media attention.
Get the media attention. So there's, in a way, some kind of an elitist bias in this.
134 die in a third world and 8 die in a European world, but that happens.
For someone like you, you'd said earlier that no one ever finds out about the attacks that are stopped. The successes. And there's so many that are happening.
So you're saying we should celebrate the successes. They should come out with it.
Saying
Tuesday, 7:30, bomb defused.
We are getting if we're only finding out about 1 or 2 that are happening out of like 100, how are you not cynical?
It's not a question. It's not a question of being cynical. See, the world has always been like this. The world has been like this. There are forces which are stabilizing, there are forces which are destabilizing. And it's the collective will of people which will decide which way we want to go to. This country has seen worse times. This country has seen partition, right? Where communal, fires were blazing, and we think that we should learn from that. We should not be divisive. And today, more than any other time in the world where information disseminates very quickly, we should be very careful about what we say, what effect it's going to have on society. And also, I think people will mature. People will, the way we were talking of censorship, I think the whole point you wanted to say was that people have matured, and we can't have censorship which is based on certain values which are supposed to be olden. I think I have a lot of faith in people's discernment, and though there is probably a temporary feeling of despair, I think there's hope. Let me tell you that there are a lot of people who are working for your benefit, for your welfare, for your safety, security, and they are ready to even give their life for that. So, a small point I would say that, the borders of this country are protected by police forces. There's a UN convention which says that only border police forces, this is not known to the people. So Indo-Tibetan Border Police, BSF, CRPF, they are the agencies जो देश की सीमाओं की रक्षा करते हैं ना, that is police, right?
Correct.
So these agencies, they never get to celebrate Diwali, they never get to go home. These people are being, every year, I would say, you would not know this, but every year 600, 700 policemen die fighting, left-wing extremists and terrorists and gangsters.
On the borders.
No, in India, even inside India, nobody knows about this. Yeah. So there are people who are laying down their lives for the benefit of citizens, and we are not aware of that. But somehow this whole perception gap has to be fought, because there's an economics in this that only bad sells. So let us talk about what is good, what is substantial things which are happening, rather than the noise and the fog which is being created by a media which is commercial. One channel
which you want to not point out, but also we had one Australian who helped us at the Wagga area. I don't know if you remember Alan Border. He was just let it go. Let it be. You wouldn't. But he's just choking himself. He can't bear it. There are some crimes which are irredeemable. Just no point to it. All right. I think that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for being on the show, and lots of positive feedback. I think at the end of it, let's not worry the world. There's enough trouble anyway. ISIS is being defeated. They've lost about 25% of the area in the last 3 months. No one knows about that except me and you. Right, sir?
And now everyone.
And now everyone. All right, Brijesh, all the best to you as an author and as obviously a police officer, and thank you for helping us stay safe. And I will call if there's any problem.
Thank you so much.
My building gives a lot of trouble.
It's wonderful interacting with you, and I'll tell you what we need today is satire, and probably satire is something which is missing from our discourse. So it lightens things up while being actually an intellectual revolt, and you do it very well. Thank you.
Yes, I call it young. We are the young ones.
You're listening to Cyrus Says.
All views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily the views and opinions of the IndusVox Media Network or any of our show advertisers or sponsors. No animals were harmed in the making of this podcast, obviously.